We have several family lines that settled into Virginia in the 1600s. They came from England and Ulster, which is now Northern Ireland. The following pictures were taken from the Frontier Museum in Staunton, Virginia, and others from our trip when we went to visit that area. They had brought farms from the 1600s from the countries where the original people of Virginia came from, and reconstructed those farms and made up a new museum along with the history of why they left their homes and settled into this unknown land. Some of our family names include the Gays, the Dunlaps, the Lockridge, the Warwicks, and the Kincaids, which all came from Ulster in Northern Ireland. The English home of the Gays was Warwickshire, but because of religious persecution, they had earlier moved to Ulster and then to Londonderry. William Gay, my sixth great-grandfather, was our immigrant ancestor. His father was a defender in the siege of Londonderry in 1689. King James II, who by this time was a former British king, began this siege of Londonderry, which was a Protestant stronghold in Northern Ireland. In 1688, James II, who was a Catholic, was deposed by his Protestant daughter, Mary, and her husband, William of Orange, in a bloodless coup known as the Glorious Revolution. Our families, the Gays, were originally a wealthy family, but by the time they went through the revolutions during the 1600s, they had a loss of their wealth. So because of this religious persecution, famine, etc., a number of these families, along with the Gays, left Ireland around 1730 and came to America. They landed in the Philadelphia area and worked their way down the frontier road into the Shenandoah Valley, and they settled in present-day Augusta and Rockbridge counties in Virginia. They lived in farms similar to the ones that they had had there, with thatch roofs that was approximately 12 inches of hay on top. These roofs were durable and could last for over 25 years. Here's a picture looking inside, looking up to the rooftop. They had to gather and burn peat for fire and heat because trees were scarce in Ireland. They did not have that problem when they came to Virginia, however. They also ate a lot of oats, and here's a grinder from that time period. Our earliest English ancestors were also the Woodsons, Flemings, Ferris, and Tarletons. The Woodsons came and settled outside Jamestown, Virginia in April 1619. He was a physician for the army to protect the early settlers from the Indians. The Flemings, Ferris, also known as Farrer, and Tarleton history in England is intertwined with royalty. In fact, the Ferrises came from the Knights of Gascoigne centuries earlier and became the early defenders of Virginia as well. If you look closer at the family history of the Gays, Dunlaps, Kincaids, Warwicks, and Lockridges, they all settled in the same area of the Shenandoah Valley, in a place called the Little Calf Pasture. There is also a Little Calf Pasture Creek that flows through this area. Interestingly enough, on the map, there's also a big calf pasture and a bull calf pasture. They settled into what was originally Augusta County, Virginia. It later was split into Rockbridge County, Virginia as well. Very interesting to me is that my second great-grandfather, James Wesley Martin, and his wife, Nancy Open Jane Green, also were in this same county about 70 years later and were there through the Civil War. An area near the calf pastures was a little settlement called Carr's Creek. It's spelled Kerr', but the Scotch-Irish pronunciation is Cars, not Curs. They settled here in the 1730s, and it's amazing to me how they found the place to settle in this forested covered countryside. However, tragedy struck them during the French and Indian War. The Indians hit this area twice. In 1758, they attacked and killed James Gay's wife, Jean Warwick Gay, when she went into the woods to gather in the cows. She was the daughter of William and Elizabeth Dunlap Warwick, and she married James in about 1744. Jean was killed by the Indians in Carr's Creek uprising in 1758, and she left 5 children, the youngest just a baby. The Indians struck again in 1764. This time, James Gay's sister Eleanor Gay, who was married to William Kincaid, was captured by the Indians along with her 2 children near the source of the Big Calf Pasture River. Eleanor Gay was the daughter of William and Margaret Walkup Hamilton Gay. She was born on 17th of August, 1740, perhaps in Augusta County. She married William Kincaid in the 30th of November 1756. In 1764, while living near the source of the Big Calf Pasture River, Eleanor and her two children, a son and a daughter, were taken captive by the Indians and taken to their camp. The youngest son was only 2 years old, and he was killed on the way because he could not keep up. Eleanor gave birth to a daughter, Susan, in July of 1764 while she was in captivity. Eleanor and her baby were released by the Indians in November of 1764 due to the Treaty of Bouquet. The other daughter, Isabella, was not released until some time later. 9 more children, 4 sons and 5 daughters, were born to Eleanor and William. After the Revolutionary War, these families left this area and settled in Woodford County, Kentucky in the early 1780s. She actually left a will there dated 12th of September 1822. Many of the Gay family history was written by Jane Gay, who recorded this as part of her life story in 1845 when she was 95 years old.